Good morning, everybody. And former Trump campaign aide Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, another former Trump campaign aide, were indicted for money laundering. And according to the document associated with this, they were indicted to the tune of 75 million. They were accused of laundering $75 million. Okay. And yeah, 75 million. And I have a copy of the case right here that I'm about to put up. I haven't decided whether I'm going to use Scribd yet or put it up as a converted to HTML file. But that's going to depend on what I'm able to do with my little converter here. But this is criminal case numbers 18 USC 2371 981 UIC IC 982 100. It's got a long list of numbers. Let's see. Paul Manafort Jr. and Richard W. Gates, Richard W. Gates. That's it. Rick. The grand jury for the District of Columbia. It's titled Indictment. Oh, case. That's it. Here's a case 117 CR 00201, assigned to Judge Jackson and Amy Berman, assignment date 10/27/2017. Description: indictment B. That B designation is interesting. I don't know where that B comes from. Indictment B. Where does indictment B come from? Wow. And it, according to the indictment that I'm reading, it directly ties the money laundering activities to their work as political consultants. Excuse me, I'm just adjusting this a little bit. Yeah, to their work as political consultants. And wow, it says between. Let me see what I can do here as far as converting this. This is more than fascinating. And of course, it is you might have suspected. If you follow such things, Paul Manafort is a worldwide Twitter trend. That's right, worldwide Twitter trend. I didn't see Rick Gates though, but let's see here, PDF to text. It is 9:52 in the morning in the AM in the East, which would be, let's see, almost 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:52 in the West. Good morning. It is early, and I went to bed at 3:52 in the morning, so that's not a lot of sleep, is it? Yeah, I should at some point go back to sleep. Okay, so we've got, let's see here, PDF text. Let us click upload files, right? We did the upload the files, all right. Let's see here. It says error. Convert PDF to text, right? All right. Those are sponsored results. That's nothing. Let's see here. Try it again. Upload files. If that doesn't work, I'll try plan B. It says uploading. There it is. Da, 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 da. And oh, that's not uploading. Okay, fine. Since that's not uploading there, I will go to plan B. I was going to make it into a HTML document and put it on my website, right? But that's, for some reason, undoubtedly associated with how this thing is encrypted, I can't do it. So, but I can upload it to script, and that's precisely what I'm going to do right now. Putting it to script. Now, if you are not familiar with script, it is a pioneer software service website built by company founder Trip Alder. I think way back in 2000, Script's been around for a while. I want to say 2008, something like that. I have to double check, but I'm writing right now. This is Manafort Gates indictment. Paul Manafort and Richard Gates, right, indictment, filed indictment from, yeah, Trump aides. Trump aides. Trump aides. And I'm writing, what I'm writing down now is this is the Paul Manafort and Richard Gates indictment. Got it, and that's done. And copied the link, and right now I am going over to the live stream here and putting this copy of it, the indictment, into this description right now, so you can have a look at it for yourself. All right, and let's edit video, and here we are, and we're putting the link there, and copying this, pressing that, and I'm putting indictment in. Indictment there, and I said Rick Gates. I should say Richard. Instead of Rick, say Richard. Richard. It's Richard Gates, not Rick. It's Richard Gates. Okay. Copy that. Paste there. I'm putting the meta tags in here, folks, if you're wondering. Copy that, and I'll give you the details. And boom. Okay. It is now posted. The indictment is posted on this, in this live stream, in the description area. So if you go to the description area, you'll see the title again in the description area. Click on the link right below it, where right next to the word indictment, colon, boom, and you'll see it. Okay, so there it is. Now I'll read to you what the indictment says as I'm doing this. I'll share this on social media. So right now, there. Okay. Oops. Let me take that away. Oh, wow. What happened? And then I'll talk to you about what happened here. This is a deep case, and it goes back years. And before I discuss the implications for the Trump campaign, let me explain that they did a great deal of research on what this man has done. He and Skip Gates served as political consultants, and they primarily had associations in the Ukraine, and they made it their associations in Ukraine and parts of what we used to call the Soviet Union with political interests, political projects in the United States. When I went through the indictment, I searched the name Trump, and it didn't come up, which I thought was really fascinating. It did not come up, so for whatever reason. But yeah, I thought it was quite fascinating. So there, I've tweeted it out there, and I'm going to tweet it out one more time, but I'll put it on Facebook. That's what I'll do. Copy that. Also, the indictment involves a pattern of putting money in large offshore accounts centered in Cyprus, and then this is over a period of years, going back to 2013, I believe. Yeah, so it predates the Trump campaign by a lot, but again, it doesn't mention, and I still think this is really fascinating, it does not mention the Trump campaign, but it predates the Trump campaign, and it lists a large number of companies that were established as part of this money laundering activity. Companies that Manafort and Gates would create, put their money into, and then go on from there. So that's, and good morning, DJT45 is the handle. Good morning. But now the indictment as a whole, as I will read it to you now, it's also, as I said, it's up on script, and ready for view. So I'm going to view it. The link is in this live stream description area. You can read along if you wish to do so. Let's see here. And I'm going to put this out for view. Boom. Okay. And it reads, Defendant Paul J. Manafort Jr. and Richard W. Gates III served for years as political consultants and lobbyists. Between at least 2006 and 2015, Manafort and Gates acted as unregistered agents of the government of Ukraine, something called the Party of Regions, which is a Ukraine political party whose leader, Viktor Yanukovych, was president from 2010 to 2014. I remember this. Yanukovych and the opposition bloc, a successor to the Party of Regions that formed in 2014 when Yanukovych fled to Russia. Manafort and Gates generated tens of millions of dollars in income as a result of their Ukrainian work. In order to hide Ukraine payments from the United States authorities from approximately 2006 to at least 2016, Manafort and Gates laundered the money through scores of United States and foreign corporations, partnerships, and bank accounts. Whew, there you go, folks. That is, as they say, deep. Looking for the sugar for my coffee. See, this is my coffee cup, all right? Hold on a second while I get the sugar for my coffee. This is deep, 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 deep. All right. Okay. There's the sugar. Yes, it does say Star Trek. There. Good morning. If you're just joining me, Paul Manafort and Richard Gates, former Trump aides, were indicted by federal grand jury for money laundering to the tune of $75 million. Hold on a second. If you want to read the indictment, it's in the description. That is part of this live stream. Hold on 1 second. Now, according to the indictment, the money laundering accusations go back to activities listed that began allegedly in 2006 and extended up to 10 years, 2016. Yeah, 2016. Let me turn on the TV and see and hear what people are saying. I think some of this I can probably show you. because of the nature of it. I might be able to. Hold on a second. A bit slow in the morning. Got my coffee. That's strong coffee, boy. Whew. Made that too strong. Could take the barnacle off a battleship with the coffee I made. Whew. My goodness. My goodness. Oh, come on here. What's going on? Okay, do this. Just trying to turn on my TV, folks, and for some reason it's decided to be temperamental. And I don't know why. It is weird. It's off. Unusual behavior. It's one of these sets where you point it. Here's the thing, I hit the off button and it came on. So now it says no signal. Let me try this again. There. All right. There, that's better. I think we have one of these chairs is the opposite side of the room, and I think it somehow blocks the signal, so you have to aim it just right. This is crazy, man. Very crazy. Hold on a second. And it claims to be retrieving data. Yeah, right. This is wild. All right. One moment, I gotta alter the aim here. Hold on a second. Altering aim. Come on. Turn on. What's going on here? Oh boy. You're supposed to just point it and it comes on, right? Not retrieving data. Not retrieving data. At 10:07 in the morning. I'll try this again. Okay. Click. Okay. Supposed to just come on. I don't get it. Let's try to point it closer to the set. Didn't work out. Oh boy. Hey, good morning if you're just joining us. Welcome to Zenny62. The Paul Manafort indictment copy is in a link. It's part of this live stream in the description area. Have a look at it. Meanwhile, the TV's not coming on. I mean, the power is working. It's nothing like stupid like that. It's just being weird. Resolution not supported. Let me try something here. Off. Okay, off, off, off. That's when I hit off and it still comes on. It's the weirdest thing. All right, now on. Why am I getting HDMI 2? Now it's on. Okay.
that the judge will determine whether or not to detain both defendants, both men, or release
okay, here we go,
them.
folks.
There's a number of factors that can be considered in whether or not to detain criminal defendants in federal cases like this. However, it is likely, considering that this is a white-collar criminal case involving money laundering, also, lying to federal prosecutors about their foreign agent status, it is likely that the judge would release them, possibly with several considerations about as to whether or not they have to surrender their passports, as to whether or not they have to maintain a curfew. So all of those decisions will be laid out when both men make their initial appearance right here at District Court.
You can hear it from here.
That happening at 1:30 this afternoon, and in the meantime, John and Poppy, we wait for both men to be transported by federal authorities
this afternoon.
to the FBI field office right here to court. Back to you.
All right, Jessica Schneider, thank you very much for that. Let's go to the White House now, where Caitlin Collins is there, and we have learned in just the past few moments that the president has been briefed on these charges. What else do we know?
Yeah, that's right. The president has been briefed by his legal team at the White House here. We hear that we're not likely to get a statement from the legal team on this until they can go through the full scope of these charges. But other than that, we have no official comment from the White House so far, John and Poppy, on this. All we have so far is several White House officials on background attempting to distance themselves from Paul Manafort, from Robert Gates, and from these charges, telling several people on the CNN White House team that these charges have nothing to do with the White House, nothing to do with the Trump campaign. And one person actually told my colleague Sarah Murray, these guys were bad guys when they started, they were bad guys when they left, and they added, this has nothing to do with Russia. But that's right, we know that the president has met with his legal team, they've gone over these charges. But just to remind everyone, Paul Manafort is someone who was hired by the Trump campaign back in March. Then he was promoted to campaign chairman in May, and he did not resign until mid-August. So he is someone who was around the campaign for some time. And we actually last heard the president comment on Paul Manafort in August. That was after the FBI had raided Paul Manafort's Virginia home, and the president told reporters at his golf course in New Jersey that he thought that the raid signaled something very serious. He said that he had always known Paul Manafort to be a decent man, and that he knew that he had fees coming in and out of some places, but above all, he said that he thought he was a decent person. But it's not likely we'll hear from the White House until later this afternoon. The press secretary, Sarah Sanders, is scheduled to brief reporters at 1 o'clock here. So we will keep you updated on any comment from the White House on these charges.
Okay. All right, Caitlin Collins at the White House, thank you so much. And I do want to bring our viewers a little more color that we just got from our
live right here, Zenny 62.
The president acknowledging, yes, the president has been briefed on this, and that he will likely say later that he feels badly for Paul Manafort and his family, but this has nothing to do with us or the campaign.
Which this indictment, as of now, does not. However, the investigation of Robert Mueller might have a lot to do with the campaign. So stay tuned. We are following all of these major breaking developments.
2007
Manafort and Rick
tweets on this on Manafort alone.
A 12-count indictment. They go to the courthouse very shortly. Stick around.
Alone.
CNN Newsroom is brought to you by America's biopharmaceutical companies. Go boldly.
I had to turn this down because some folks still sleeping. Welcome to Zenny 62, and I'll put this on mute. Welcome to Zenny 62, and I have a copy of the indictment right here in the description of this video. So you go in the description, you can click on it, you can read the indictment for yourself, and we can discuss what's going on from there. What I'm doing right now is I'm on Twitter, and I'm going right now to the Twitter account of President Trump, and the only thing I see right now is okay, this is Donald Trump, all right? His most recent tweet is, "Great job by Michael Caputo on Fox and Friends." Didn't hear what he said. Then there's 3 hours, it was 2 hours ago, and then 3 hours ago, report out that Obama campaign paid $972,000 to Fusion GPS, the firm who also got $12.4 million, really from DNC. Nobody knows who okayed it. $12.4 million. Ooh. Someone got rich. Tell you, you know what? You can make the right ties as a political consultant, you can rake in some bank. Wow. But you gotta be careful. And then the third tweet by President Trump is all of this, quote, Russia, unquote, talk, right when the Republicans are making their big push for historic tax cuts and reform. Is this a coincidence? Is this coincidental? Nah. That was 23 hours ago. And then he 24 hours ago tweeted, and now are fighting back like never before. There's so much guilt by Democrats / Clinton, and now the facts are pouring out. Do something. That's what the president tweeted 24 hours ago. Then he says on 29th of October, collusion which does not exist. Here's what his comments on. He's the uranium to Russia deal, the 33,000 plus deleted emails, the Comey fix, so much more. Instead, they look at phony Trump-Russia collusion which doesn't exist. Okay. The Dems are using this terrible and bad for our country witch hunt for evil politics. But the Republicans are not fighting back like never before, is what he says, all right? But this indictment is a stinging rebuke to his claim because Paul Manafort clearly is, first of all, a Trump aide, and second of all, involved in money laundering, $75 million. And sure, it predates the Trump campaign, but he was a key, well, heck, he was campaign chairman, okay, until August. And when he resigned, all right? You can't erase that stuff, that muck. You know what I'm saying? So, Slouching asks, am I for Trump or against Trump? I'm not against Trump. I am for the smooth operation of the presidency of the United States and the United States of America. It's not a matter of being for or against a person. It's a matter of love of your country. If you don't love your country, you allow it to be used and abused by power-seeking individuals who would basically manipulate you to get what they want. So if that's what you want, you can't say that you're for the United States of America. Okay, so there you go. Now, you ask, Slouching asks, what do I think about the JFK files being released? I thought they were cool. I love history and stuff like that. Probably why I have a good grade in civics, social studies. Oh, good for you. Good for you. I think the JFK files were released far too late. They should have been released. They should have been declassified 20 years ago, at least. Okay. Let's hear what people are saying about this. Hold on a second.
Ashrain Gop, the CNN analyst and former FBI special agent. So thank you all for being here. Jeffrey Toobin, to you. These are two people high up and important to Trump world, as we just heard from our Dan and Bash and our team. The thinking, though, also is, well, is this an effort to flip one or both of them, to get them to cooperate, to get to something bigger?
Certainly in a major white-collar investigation, the first charges are almost always against people that the prosecutor hopes will plead guilty and then cooperate against others. Rick Gates, in particular, tomorrow could virtually guarantee himself no prison time if he were to flip and cooperate. Now, there are problems with flipping and cooperating, starting with the fact that you may have nothing to offer against other people. You may...
That they don't already have.
That they don't already have, or that you just are unaware of other criminal activity.
What Jeffrey Toobin is basically saying that is that
federal criminal law...
An indictment like this one is...
federal law enforcement
is done
offers tremendous benefits
to get
people who plead and cooperate. I mean, you know, Sammy Gravano admitted to
give
killing
their
19 people, and he only got 5
information
years in prison
that they know about someone else, like, for example, President Trump.
That's how the system works.
Whoever is involved,
certainly these two
that person could be
represented by counsel.
Coerced to squeal, as
they
the
may
term
say, look, I'm not guilty
goes,
of anything,
right?
I'm not cooperating.
That's the idea.
They may say, I may be guilty, but I don't want to cooperate.
Now, there are 12 counts, false and misleading statements. Basically misleading the United States. Also, hiding money. $75 million.
As you look at this right now, as you look at these charges before us, what do they tell you?
They tell me a couple of things, John. So, right now we don't see the direct tie between Trump and Russia. But this is Burnham Wood creeping a little bit closer to the White House. We have these two campaign officials who do have ties with Russia. And we have a conspiracy charge here. And a conspiracy charge is going to allow the government to potentially expand the scope of who might have been involved.
Indictment does not mention Donald Trump. It does not mention Trump campaign. I can't find the name Trump in the indictment. Just want to know that.
And I just want to note that, excuse me. Right? The first is what we know about the FISA warrants on Manafort. What is listed in the indictment now, all of his activities on behalf of Ukraine, presumably formed a large basis and may have been the result of information gleaned from the first FISA that was on him. We know that that ended, and then there was another FISA that went up on him for his ties with Russia directly. So what I would say is that there might have been information gained from those FISAs that we don't necessarily see here that could be building the quote-unquote collusion case in terms of election interference. The second thing is also the Steele dossier. Manafort plays a big role there in terms of coordinating with the Kremlin in terms of election interference. That's raw intelligence. We don't know how much of it's true, but it makes sense now that Mueller would be using the Steele dossier and trying to verify as much of it, and maybe that's why he needs Manafort to start talking.
He's talking about the Steele dossier,
because I think it's a very important one. Why was Paul Manafort involved in this campaign? Why, who is he? Why
that's a good question. Why was Manafort involved in the campaign? I don't know.
Is that he was making millions of dollars from the Russia-backed party in the Ukraine. I mean, he is someone who was doing Vladimir Putin's bidding in Ukraine. Wow. He then becomes the campaign chairman for
hey, welcome to Zenny 62, by the way.
Who's he working for?
So
what side is he on? I mean, it is consistent with a campaign that.
Let me explain something here. If you haven't heard this is the indictment, all right? Again, this is all times relevant to this indictment. It reads like this. Defendants Paul J. Manafort and Richard Gates served for years as political consultants and lobbyists between at least 2006 and 2015. I said 2015. Manafort and Gates acted as unregistered agents of the government of Ukraine, the Party of Regions, a Ukrainian political party whose leader, Viktor Yanukovych, was president from 2010 to 2014. Yanukovych and the opposition bloc, which is a successor to the Party of Regions that formed in 2014 when Yanukovych fled to Russia. Manafort and Gates generated tens of millions of dollars in income as a result of their Ukraine work. In order to hide Ukraine payments from United States authorities from approximately 2006 through at least 2016, Manafort and Gates laundered the money through scores of United States and foreign corporations, partnerships, and bank accounts. That's the first paragraph. The second paragraph is 2. In furtherance of the scheme, Manafort and Gates funneled millions of dollars in payments into foreign nominee companies and bank accounts opened by them and their accomplices in nominee names in various foreign countries, including Cyprus, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, and the Seychelles. Manafort and Gates hid the existence of the foreign companies and bank accounts, falsely and repeatedly reporting to their tax preparers and to the United States that they had no foreign bank accounts. Wow, that's deep. That's deep and huge. In furtherance of the scheme, Manafort and Gates concealed from the United States their work as agents of and millions of dollars in payments from Ukraine and its political parties and leaders. Because Manafort and Gates, among other things, directed a campaign to lobby United States officials on behalf of the government of Ukraine, the president of Ukraine, and Ukrainian political parties. They are required by law to report to the United States their work and fees. Manafort and Gates did not do so. That's what this was reading. Instead, when the Department of Justice sent inquiries to Manafort and Gates in 2016 about their activities, Manafort and Gates responded with a series of false and misleading statements. So, this is number 4. In furtherance of the scheme, Manafort used his hidden overseas wealth to enjoy a lavish lifestyle in the United States without paying taxes on that income. Manafort, without reporting the income to his tax preparer in the United States, spent millions of dollars on luxury goods and services for himself and his extended family through payments wired from offshore nominee accounts to United States vendors. Manafort also used these offshore accounts to purchase multi-million-dollar properties in the United States. Manafort then borrowed millions of dollars in loans using these properties as collateral, thereby obtaining cash in the United States without reporting and paying taxes on the income. In order to increase the amount of money he could access in the United States, Manafort defrauded the institutions that loaned money on these properties so that they would lend him more money at more favorable rates than he would otherwise be able to obtain. Wow. Gates aided Manafort in obtaining money from these offshore accounts, which he was instrumental in opening. Like Manafort, Gates used money from these offshore accounts to pay for his personal expenses, including his mortgage, child tuition, and interior decorating of his Virginia residence. In total, more than $75 million flowed through the offshore accounts. Manafort laundered more than $18 million, which was used by him to buy property, goods, and services in the United States, income that he concealed from the United States Treasury, the Department of Justice, and others. Gates transferred more than $3 million from the offshore accounts to other accounts that he controlled. And this is listing of relevant individuals and entities. Manafort was a United States citizen. He resided in homes in Virginia, Florida, and Long Island, New York. Gates was a United States citizen. He resided in Virginia. It's interesting that they refer to him as was, as if, you know, they've passed, you know. Okay, so now we've got a new tweet from President Trump. Hold on a second here. The new Trump tweet reads, "Sorry, but this is years ago before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign. But why aren't Crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus? Question mark." That just came out 3 minutes ago by President Trump. Okay. So again, this President Trump's tweet is, "Sorry, but this is years ago before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign. But why aren't Crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus?" So there's another one. There's a new tweet right now. It just came out. It says, "Also, there is no collusion." Okay. And this indictment, again, I have to repeat, in fairness to President Trump, this indictment does not mention the Trump organization, but the trouble is that it forms a dark cloud around the administration because of the Russia ties, which have been alleged for some time. All right, so that's the issue here, and yes, I have a Star Trek T-shirt on. Ta-da, da-da-da. So going back to my read of the indictment, because President Trump has been active, but let's see here. we've got, yeah. So as I was saying, in 2005, Manafort and another partner created Davis Manafort Partners to engage principally in political consulting. I wonder if they have a website. Let's see, Davis Manafort Partners. I'll look that up later. DMP had staff in the United States, Ukraine, and Russia. In 2011, Manafort created DMP International to engage in work for foreign clients, in particular political consulting, lobbying, and public relations for the government of Ukraine, the Party of Regions, members of the Party of Regions. Let's see here. DMI was a partnership solely owned by Manafort and his spouse. Gates worked for both DMP and DMI and served as Manafort's right-hand man. The Party of Regions was a pro-Russia party in the Ukraine. Beginning in approximately 2006, I'm reading the indictment, they retained Manafort through DMP and then DMI to advance its interest in Ukraine, including the election of its state candidates. Wow, that's deep. In 2010, its candidates for president, Yankovich, was elected president of Ukraine. In 2014, Yankovich fled Ukraine for Russia in the wake of popular protests of widespread governmental corruption. Yeah, I remember that too. And a woman, I believe, if memory serves, a woman took over as president. I have to double check that. Yankovich, the Party of Regions, and the government of Ukraine were Manafort, DMP, and DMI clients. The European Center for a Modern Ukraine, called the Center, was created during or about 2012 in Belgium as a mouthpiece for Yankovich and the Party of Regions. The center was used by Manafort, Gates, and others in order to lobby and conduct a public relations campaign in the United States and Europe on behalf of the existing Ukraine regime. The center effectively ceased to operate upon the downfall of Yankovich in 2014. Manafort and Gates owned or controlled the following entities which were used in the scheme. And folks, these are a lot of entities, too numerous to name. I mean, and they go on. I'm going to count the number of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 31 different entities. 31. It says 13. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, was a bureau in the United States Department of the Treasury responsible for administering the tax laws of the United States and collecting taxes owed to the Treasury. And here, this indictment discusses the scheme. Hold on a second. The scheme goes like this. Between, in or around 2008 and 2017, both dates being approximate and inclusive in the District of Columbia and elsewhere, Manafort and Gates devised and attempted to execute, hey, welcome to Zenny 62, I'm reading the indictment, a scheme of an artifice to defraud and obtain money and property by means of false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises from the United States, banks, and other financial institutions. As part of the scheme, Manafort and Gates repeatedly provided false information to financial bookkeepers, tax accountants, and legal counsel, among others. This is Manafort and Gates' wiring of money from offshore accounts into the United States. In order to use the money in the offshore nominee accounts, of the Manafort Gates entities without paying taxes on them, Manafort and Gates caused millions of dollars in wire transfers from these accounts to be made for goods and services and real estate. They did not report these transfers or income to DMP, DMI, or Manafort to the federal government. From 2008 to 2014, Manafort caused the following wires totaling over $12 million to be sent to the vendors listed below for personal items. Manafort did not pay taxes on this income, which was used to make the purchases. And vendor A was for home improvement, and he's got a home in the Hamptons. For that kind of money, I would think you did. And then there's a bunch of them, payees, number of checks going out. And then vendor B, home automation, lighting, and home entertainment company in Florida. And what's this guy got, a theater in his house? I would think so. An antique rug store, men's clothing store in New York. They did a lot of research here. Wow. And basically he took money from Cyprus, and that money came to also to a clothing store in Beverly Hills, California. Which one? I don't know. Love to find out which clothing store that was in Beverly Hills. A clothing store in Beverly Hills. So somebody went shopping on Rodeo Drive, ostensibly. So, contractor in Florida. A lot of them. Wow. There's a lot of payments here, folks. There's a great list of them. Okay, Manafort and Gates hiding of Ukraine lobbying and public relations work. It is illegal to act as an agent of a foreign principal engaged in certain United States influence activities without registering the affiliation. That has to be understood here. I'm not saying this. I'm reading the indictment. It reads, it is illegal to act as an agent of a foreign principal engaged in certain United States influence activities without registering the affiliation. I'm just checking to see right now if, President Trump has not tweeted anything more, by the way. Just letting you know, okay? So, you've got, to continue. Specifically, a person who engages in lobbying or public relations work in the United States, which is hereafter really collectively referred to as lobbying, for foreign principals such as the government of Ukraine or the Party of Regions, is required to provide a detailed written registration statement to the United States Department of Justice. The filing, made under oath, must disclose the name of the foreign principal, the financial payments to the lobbyists, and the measures undertaken for the foreign principal, among other information. A person required to make such filing must further make in all lobbying material a conspicuous statement that the materials were distributed on behalf of the foreign principal. Among other things, the filing that permits public awareness and evaluation of the activities of a lobbyist who acts as an agent of a foreign power or political party in the United States. In furtherance of the scheme for 2006 to 2014, both dates being approximate and inclusive, Manafort engaged in a multi-million-dollar lobbying campaign in the United States under the direction of Yankovich, the Party of Regions, and the government of Ukraine. Manafort and Gates did so without registering and providing the disclosures required by law. As part of the scheme, in February 2012, Manafort and Gates solicited two Washington, D.C. firms, Company A and Company B, to lobby in the United States on behalf of Yankovich, the Party of Regions, the government of Ukraine. For instance, Gates wrote to Company A that would be representing the government of Ukraine in Washington, D.C. Manafort repeatedly communicated in person and in writing with Yankovich, and Gates passed on directions to Company A and Company B. And it says, for instance, Manafort wrote Yankovich on a memorandum dating April 8th of 2012, in which he provided Yankovich an update on the lobbying firm's activities since the inception of the project a few weeks ago. It is my intention to provide you with a weekly, update moving forward. Toward the end of the first year, in November 2012, Gates wrote to Company A and Company B that the firms needed to prepare an assessment of their past and prospective lobbying efforts as the president could be briefed by Paul on what Ukraine has done well and what it could do better as we move forward, okay? And then it goes on, this is 22, okay? At the direction of Manafort and Gates. Now, when it says president, that's the president of Ukraine, not the president of the United States. This is 2013. So when you hear the word president, don't say, oh yeah, Trump. No. And, you know, just to be fair, I'm not trying to defend Trump here. I'm simply telling the truth. That does not deal with Donald Trump. So, okay. Hey, Barry Lee, how you doing? So, at the direction of Manafort and Gates, Company A and Company B engaged in extensive lobbying. Among other things, they lobbied multiple members of Congress and their staffs about Ukraine's sanctions, the validity of Ukraine's sanctions, and the propriety of Yankovich imprisoning his presidential rival. That's the woman I was thinking about, Yulia Tymoshenko, who had served as Ukraine president prior to Yankovich. That was it, yeah. He jailed her, and there was this big uproar and uprising, which I covered due to my re-engineering of Zenny 62. That was when I started my blog aggregator work. Anyway, so, by the way, it's reported that President Trump will not fire Robert Mueller. If he did that, boy, off with his political head, right? Boom, there you go. Anyway, you can continue to read this. Basically, I said, among other things, I'm repeating this sentence, that they, being Manafort and Gates, lobbied multiple members of the United States Congress and their staffs about Ukraine's sanctions, the validity of Ukraine's elections, and the propriety of Yankovich imprisoning his presidential rival, Yulia Tymoshenko, who served as Ukraine president prior to Yankovich. Manafort and Gates also lobbied in connection with the rollout of a report concerning the Tymoshenko trial commissioned by the government of Ukraine. Manafort and Gates used one of their offshore accounts to funnel $4 million to pay secretly for the report. Okay. To minimize public disclosure of their lobbying campaign, Manafort and Gates arranged for the center to be the nominal client of Company A and Company B, even though, in fact, the center was under the ultimate direction of the government of Ukraine. Wow. Yankovich and the Party of Regions. For instance, Manafort and Gates selected Company A and Company B. Only thereafter did the center sign contracts with lobbying firms without ever meeting, again, I'm repeating, without ever meeting either company. Company A and Company B, they don't list what the names of the companies, were paid for their services, at least not here, were paid for their services by their nominal clients, the center, but solely through offshore accounts associated with the Manafort Gates entities, namely Bila Ventures Limited in Cyprus and Junit Limited and Global Endeavor Incorporated. Okay. In the Grenadines. In total, Company A and Company B were paid more than $2 million from these accounts between 2012 and 2014. To conceal the scheme, Manafort and Gates developed a false and misleading cover story that would distance themselves from the government of Ukraine, Yankovich, and the Party of Regions from the center, Company A and Company B. For instance, in the wake of extensive reports on Manafort and his concessions with Ukraine, on August 16, 2016, Gates communicated false talking points to Company B in writing, including, question, can you describe your initial contact with Company B and the lobbying goals he discussed with them? We provide an introduction between the center and Company B, Company A in 2012, and then the center was seeking to retain representation in Washington, D.C. to support the mission of the NGO. And here's another one. This is A. Our Manafort Gates task was to assist the center in find representation in Washington, D.C., but at no time did our firm or members provide any direct lobbying support. The structure of the arrangement, here's another one. I mean, there's a bunch of these statements, okay? Examples, there's a list of them, all right? And then this goes on. I'm not going to read the entire indictment, but I've read to you now, I believe, 19 of the 31 pages of this indictment. You can read the rest here at Xenia 62. There's a link right below. Hey, Hennessy, how you doing? And I'll get to your questions. Hennessy, so what do you believe is going to happen with Trump now? Well, this doesn't list Trump. So right now, nothing. I went through the indictment. I cannot find a direct association, you know, with Donald Trump, okay? It's not here. So, you know, what can you say? You can say this. You can say that the next question is, here's what I see. The National Security Advisor that was involved here is that, and as I look this up, I'm thinking about, excuse me for a second, I'm just typing something to check a hunch. I'm just typing this to check a hunch, because I believe this may be the next big fish, all right? And we've got, let's see here. And I'm trying to check and see if if he's listed here, and I don't see him mentioned, interestingly, at all. At all. But there was advisor. Yep, don't see this at all. National Security Advisor, it was John Stephen Hadley here. And we have yeah, I don't see that mentioned, because they have this is really interesting. They managed to actually erase Stanley, was it Stanley, I believe it was, from this. National Security Trump fired. And this is really interesting. They have managed to erase him here, at least from the news, the current news. That's fascinating. And what I'm talking about is Mike Flynn. I'm talking about, hey everybody, welcome. I'm talking about Mike Flynn. And I'm going back to what President Trump said about Mike Flynn, because Mike Flynn had Russia ties too, okay? And the question is, will Mike Flynn be the next domino to fall in this? This is what, according to Business Insider, Donald Trump said about Mike Flynn. It says, President Donald Trump's previous comments about his former national security advisor, Mike Flynn, are now being scrutinized after multiple news outlets reported that Trump asked FBI Director James Comey to drop the Flynn investigation before Comey was fired May 9th. And that's when he said the famous, I hope you can let this go, right? And Flynn was forced out of the Trump administration for misleading the Vice President, Mike Pence, about discussions he had with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. And those discussions included the matter of U.S. sanctions against Russia and were held prior to Trump's inauguration. Former Director Sally Yates warned the White House that Flynn's phone calls with the ambassador are liable to make Flynn vulnerable to Russian blackmail. And since then, Trump has denied his longtime surrogates, has defended his longtime surrogates even after learning of his deception. And it says that this wouldn't be the first time that Trump has been placed in an awkward position of defending the advisor he fired, the same one under federal scrutiny, and the center of the recent string of scandals from the White House. So they have a list of, you know, times that that Trump has defended, you know, Flynn and everything else. All right. Obama warned him. Obama warned Trump, but you know what? And didn't listen. Now the question is, does Mike Flynn have any ties to Paul Manafort? And let's see here. If we type Paul Manafort and then comma Mike Flynn in Google to search, let's see what we get. Just for, you know, Flynn, just for the sake of knowledge. And what we have are, let's see here. Trump lawyer Ty Cobb, president not worried about what Paul Manafort says. We've got Trump lawyer Ty Cobb. And, oh, here. This is what Trump lawyer Ty Cobb said about Manafort. This is 2 days ago. He said, Trump lawyer Ty Cobb, excuse me, president not worried about what Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn told Robert Mueller. Okay, and he says Donald Trump's lawyer says President Trump is not worried about what his former campaign chairman Paul Manafort or former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn told Special Counsel Robert Mueller in his investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Ty Cobb told the New York Times Trump is confident neither Manafort nor Flynn has incriminating information about the president. The president has no concerns in terms of any impact as to what happens to them on his campaign or the White House, Cobb said. Prosecutors on Mueller's team reportedly warned Manafort to expect an indictment when they raided his Virginia home in July. CNN reported late Friday the first charges had been filed in Russian investigation. Anyone charged could be taken into custody as soon as Monday. That's today. We know what happened. It is not known who is being charged in the case, but now we do. It's Manafort, all right? And he says, yeah, so that's it. So again, that's, you know, Trump's lawyer basically trying to push his client, President Trump, away, okay? So now as to whether or not he has sufficient charges, sufficient evidence to charge Mike Flynn with anything, that's what I'm trying to find out. What? How much can you find out here, right? We've got, I don't know that, I've already read the charges to you. Oh, by the way, George-Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor of the Trump campaign, has also been charged. I did not see his name. So hold on a second. Hold on a second, everybody. There is a tie. Well, another tie. George-Papadopoulos, a foreign policy advisor of the Trump campaign, has also been charged. And claims he has regular contact with Russians who had high-level access in Moscow. And during an interview with the FBI, Papadopoulos attempted to downplay these links, which included a message that Putin wanted to meet Trump and suggestions that the Russians could help with thousands of emails that contained dirt on Hillary Clinton. Okay, the indictment said he claimed only contacts with a female Russian national that came before he joined the Trump campaign, but that was not true. Let me go back to the indictment here and see if I could find, see if I type George and let this run. And this is lame. It says no results found. It's basically a lame search system. That's what it is. So I can't trust that because I can't find anything through that. Let me try this another way. Because that, my search system here is lame. George. If I type George, I can't find it. It says no results. Okay. This doesn't seem to work very well. What I'm talking about is this search system here. Okay, let me try this another way. Let me go to the script file. So hold on a second, folks. I'm looking for certain words here. And I'm not finding a search document, George. All right, George, search document. And showing 0 results for George. It's not listed in this indictment. I don't see what they're talking about. It's claiming that this claims that a gentleman named George-Papadopoulos was charged, but George-Papadopoulos' name does not come out in the filing. That's yeah, I didn't see that. It was unseen, unless there was another separate page of indictments I missed somehow. That could be. Let me go back to the let me go back to this, because I uploaded the document, right? And let me see here. Let me go back to, let me type this on Twitter. Papadopoulos on Twitter. Court papers, former Donald Trump campaign aide pleads guilty to lying to FBI agents. So that happened 29 minutes, 29 minutes ago. He pleads guilty to lying to FBI agents in the Trump probe. And yeah, that's brand new. This is brand new information, folks. Ooh, boy. Holy fick holy. This is brand new information. And there's a George-Papadopoulos who's an independent financial planner, personally advised. He's a Wall Street Journal expert panelist. Okay. He pleaded guilty to lying to FBI investigators about his role in getting dirt on figures connected to Russia. This is brand new, folks. And Trump said there's no collusion. I think we're heading toward our first smoking gun. This is new. It says the indictment for George-Papadopoulos says he made false statements to FBI agents January of this year. All right, and I've got to find this indictment. And yeah, this is some is singing. This is a problem. Defendant Papadopoulos, Trump campaign advisor. Defendant Papadopoulos. Dedicated to, this is a new filing. This is unsealed. Now this is brand new, folks. Hold on a second. This is brand new. This is the United States of America versus George-Papadopoulos. This is a separate filing, folks. Oh, wow. This is a separate filing, folks. Hold on a second. I'm getting a copy of it. I've got a copy of it. I'm going to read it to you. I'm downloading it right now. I'm going to save the file, first of all. Okay. Yeah, this is getting deep. Fast. Statement of the offense. I'm downloading it, and I'm going to put it on script first so you can read it along with me. Give me a moment here. Let me go back to upload. Give me a moment here, please. This is the new indictment that came out about half an hour ago, a little bit before that. I'm putting it out for you to view here. One moment. I am putting this on script for rapid upload. This is the George-Papadopoulos Trump aid statement offense. There. It's done. Okay, so I'm putting this on view, and I'm taking the link to this, all right? And I have copied it. Copy. And hold on a second. Hold on a second. Got them basically putting this, edit the video. And I've got this. And so, okay, so new indictment. Indictment. Okay, so this is new indictment, new George-Papadopoulos. New George-Papadopoulos indictment. Paul Manafort, Richard Gates, and I'm adding his name here. Paul Manafort, Richard Gates, George-Papadopoulos, right here. Excuse me, right there. Bear with me, folks. New George-Papadopoulos indictment. Save changes to that. Indicted for money laundering. Indicted for money laundering. Let me take this out here. All right, and then save changes. Yeah. Okay. There. All right, and I've added his name to this. Okay. And now I'm reissuing the tweet. And okay, going back to the watch page, which you're on, all right? So if you check the title, you will see the title has been updated to add his name, okay? And I'm going to put this out on Twitter. Excuse me. Share. Let me get this. 3 Trump campaign associates caught up in probe. Manafort's and Gates charge. Papadopoulos pleads guilty. There, okay. So, deep stuff, folks. Deep stuff. Deep stuff right here. So, oops. And, see, post to Facebook, there, right there, and post it. All right, now we'll send out the tweet. There, okay. And there's the tweet, all right. Okay, so Papadopoulos pleads guilty. Now, like I said, this is deep. Very, very, very deep. Now, I will read the new charges. This is against George, all right? And this is a George-Papadopoulos Trump aide statement offense. You have 3 Trump campaign associates that are caught up in this probe. This is getting deeper by the minute. It says, pursuant to federal rule, criminal procedure, the United States of America and the defendant George-Papadopoulos stipulate and agree that the following facts are true and accurate. These facts do not constitute all the facts known to the parties concerning the charged offense. They are being submitted to demonstrate deficient facts exist, and the defendant committed the offense to which he is pleading guilty. The defendant, George-Papadopoulos, who served as a foreign policy advisor for the federal presidential campaign of Donald Trump. Stop the presses. This specifically mentions Donald Trump. I repeat, this specifically mentions Donald Trump. One more time. This specifically mentions Donald Trump. Okay? The defendant, George-Papadopoulos, who served as a foreign policy advisor for the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump, the campaign, made material false statements and material omissions during an interview with the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, that took place January 27th, 2017. At the time of the interview, the FBI had an open investigation into the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, including the nature of any links between individuals associated with the campaign and the Russian government, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and the Russia's efforts. The FBI opened and coordinated the investigation in Washington, D.C. Defendant Papadopoulos made the following material statements, material omissions to the FBI. Defendant Papadopoulos claimed that his interaction with overseas professor, who Defendant Papadopoulos understood to have substantial connections with Russian government officials, occurred before Defendant Papadopoulos became a foreign policy advisor to the campaign. Defendant Papadopoulos acknowledged that the professor had told him about the Russians possessing dirt on then-candidate Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails, but stated multiple times he had learned the information prior to joining the campaign. In truth, and in fact, however, Defendant Papadopoulos learned he would be an advisor to the campaign in early March, and met the professor on or about March 14th, 2016. The professor only took interest in Defendant Papadopoulos because of his status with the campaign. And the professor told Defendant Papadopoulos that after the thousands of emails on or about April 26, 2016, when Defendant Papadopoulos had been a foreign policy advisor to the campaign for over a month. Defendant Papadopoulos further told investigating agents that the professor was a nothing and just a guy talking up connections or something. In truth and fact, however, okay. Stuff happens and we're back. We haven't went anywhere. Hold on a second. And let's make sure that doesn't happen again. All right. Okay. Right there. Let's put that there. Put that here. And let's continue. All right. Okay. So, Defendant Papadopoulos further told the investigating agents that the professor was a nothing and just a guy talking up connections or something. In truth, in fact, however, Defendant Papadopoulos understood that the professor had substantial connections to Russian government officials and had met with those officials in Moscow immediately prior to telling Defendant Papadopoulos that about the thousands of emails and over a period of months, Defendant Papadopoulos repeatedly sought to use the professor's Russian connections in an effort to arrange a meeting between the campaign and Russian government officials. Defendant Papadopoulos claimed he met a certain female Russian national. Was she cute? Just asking, was she cute? Hold on a second. Let me straighten this out here. Got that down there. Cool. All right. And there. All right. Yeah. Is it... She had to have been cute. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? That might have been that lawyer. That Russian, the woman that had the connections, that had that big meeting that Donald J. Trump was involved in. Ooh, this is getting deeper, folks. Hold on a second. This is getting deeper. Defendant Papadopoulos claimed he met a certain female Russian national before he joined the campaign, and that their communication consisted of emails such as, "Hi, how are you?" In truth and fact, however, Defendant Papadopoulos met the female Russian national on or about March 24, 2016, after he became an advisor to the campaign. He believed that she had connections to Russian officials, government officials, and he sought to use her Russian connections over a period of months in an effort, in an effort to arrange a meeting between the campaign and Russian government officials. This is starting to point to Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr. Okay. Through his false statements and omissions, Defendant Papadopoulos impeded the FBI's ongoing investigation into the existence of any links or coordination between individuals associated with the campaign and the Russian government's efforts to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. They have a timeline of selected events. And by the way, this indictment is right here. It's Zenny62 in this description of this video this live stream, okay? It says that in early March 2016, hold on a second, I'm just putting this in so that we can begin to power up again. There we go. All right. And, okay. So, all right. Now, it says that in early March 2016, defendant Papadopoulos learned he would be a foreign policy advisor for the campaign. And then, hold on a second, please. There. Okay, and just making some adjustments. All right, I'll repeat. In early March 2016, defendant Papadopoulos learned he would be a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign. Defendant Papadopoulos was living in London, England at the time. Based on a conversation that took place on or about March 6, 2016, I'm reading the indictment, with a supervisory campaign official, the campaign supervisor, defendant Papadopoulos understood that a principal foreign policy focus of the campaign was an improved United States relationship with Russia. Papadopoulos' introduction to Professor and the female Russian national. On or about March 14, 2016, while traveling in Italy, defendant Papadopoulos met an individual, good morning Jamal Mills, met an individual who was a professor based in London, and that's the professor. Initially, the professor seemed uninterested in defendant Papadopoulos. However, after defendant Papadopoulos informed the professor, about his joining the Trump campaign, the professor appeared to take great interest in defendant Papadopoulos. Defendant Papadopoulos was interested in the professor because, among other reasons, the professor claimed to have substantial connections with Russian government officials, which defendant Papadopoulos thought could increase his importance as a policy advisor to the campaign. On or about March 21, 2016, the campaign told the Washington Post that defendant Papadopoulos was one of the 5 named foreign policy advisors to the campaign, or for the campaign. On or about March 24, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos met with a professor in London. The professor brought with him a female Russian national. The female Russian national introduced to defendant Papadopoulos as a relative of Russian President Vladimir Putin with connections to senior Russian government officials. I'm going to repeat this. This is number 7. This is in the document that I'm reading to you, which is also linked right here in the live stream, in the description. It's the second link, not the first, the second one, okay? Under George-Papadopoulos, all right? Now, on or about March, I'm repeating, on or about March 24, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos met with a professor in London. The professor brought with him a female Russian national. Quote, the female Russian national introduced to defendant Papadopoulos as a relative of Russian President Vladimir Putin with connections to senior Russian government officials. This is a big deal because that person is a lawyer that had met with Donald Trump Jr. and Manafort in a large group in a meeting that Donald Trump Jr. had said it was nothing about other than she's trying to, look for some connections or look for she had some Russian government information. All right, that's what he said. And then remember, President Trump jumped in and wrote a statement for his son, which some people had observed as obstruction of justice. So this is a very deep, very, very, very deep revelation right here that I'm reading to you. This is a very deep revelation I'm reading to you right here. All right, and it goes on. Okay. So it says, following his March 24th, 2016 meeting with the professor and the female Russian national, defendant Papadopoulos emailed the campaign supervisor and several members of the campaign's foreign policy team, wow, which includes Mike Flynn, okay, and stated that he had just met with his good friend, quote unquote, the professor, who had introduced him to the female Russian national, described the defendant Papadopoulos in the email as Putin's niece, and the Russian ambassador in London. And so let me see here, Putin's niece. Let me look that up. Putin's niece. And let's see if I can get a name here. Putin's niece. Niece. And, oh, here we go. And Putin's niece is, oh, come on. This is not scrolling like I want it to. Verna, her name is Verna Putina. Hold on a second. Let me look closer here. Vera Putina. Yeah, Vera Putina. That's her name. Okay, got it. That's her name. Verna Putina. I'm putting that into this, all right? Her name is, okay, that's her name, okay? Her name is Verna Putina, all right? Now, let me go on and read this. Okay, all right. So Verna Putina, all right, that's the woman who is has the ties, who is described here as the female Russian national, Putin's niece, and the Russian ambassador in London. Defendant Papadopoulos stated the topic of their discussion was to arrange a meeting between us and the Russian leadership to discuss U.S.-Russia ties under President Trump. All right. Hey, ML Scott, how you doing? Hey, Barry. Hey, ML. Hey, Jamal. Hey, everybody. The campaign supervisor responded that he would work it through the campaign, but that no commitments should be made at that point. The campaign supervisor added, great work. On or about March 31st, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos attended a national security meeting in Washington, D.C. with then-candidate Trump and other foreign policy advisors for the campaign. When Defendant Papadopoulos introduced himself to the group, he stated in sum and substance that he had connections that could help arrange a meeting between then-candidate Trump and President Putin. After his trip to Washington, D.C., Defendant Papadopoulos worked with a professor and the female Russian national, that's Vera, to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government, who took steps to advise this campaign of its progress. You know, Vera Putina sounds like Madeline White, the fictitious character in the movie Inside Man, played by Jodie Foster, who is this fixer for, you know, high-level political operatives and officials and everything else, okay? Hold on a second. I was catching that because for some reason my thing won't hold that properly because of some sort of, well, I'm going to fix this. But one moment, please. I'm just putting this right back here so that it stays, all right? And there it is staying, all right? So, yeah, okay, now, so I'm back. We'll be undeterred in the pursuit of information. So, there we go. Right, got that. All right, cool. Properly secured, okay? Where it was improperly secured before. Properly secured now. And I will continue in a few seconds after I make sure this is properly seated. Yes, and it is. Right there. Okay. And I'll lower it just a little bit. There. Okay, now. Okay. And a little bit more. How that managed to get raised higher. Okay, right there. All right. Okay, there we go. Now, continuing. After his trip to Washington, D.C., Defendant Papadopoulos worked with a professor and the Russian female national to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government and took steps to advise the campaign of his progress. In early 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos sent multiple emails to other members of the campaign's foreign policy team regarding his contacts with, quote, the Russians, unquote, and his, quote, outreach to Russia, unquote. On or about April 10th, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos emailed the female Russian national, that's Vera Putina, who responded the next day on or about April 11th, 2016, that she would be, quote, would be very pleased to support your initiatives between our two countries. Defendant Papadopoulos then asked female Russian national in an email CCing the professor about setting up a potential foreign policy trip to Russia. The professor responded to Defendant Papadopoulos' email letter on that day about April 11, 2016. This has already been agreed. I'm flying to Moscow on the 18th for a Vitaly meeting plus other meetings at the demo and the Duma. The Duma is a Russian government legislative assembly. The female Russian national responded I have already alerted my personal links to our conversation and your requests. As mentioned, we're all very excited by the possibility of a good relationship with Mr. Trump. The Russian Federation would love to welcome him once his candidature will be officially announced. Wow. And note the date here. This is way back in April. They planned this. This is way back in April 11th of 2016, during the campaign, but months before the election itself. So there was ample time to engineer a win. I mean, note, I'm going to repeat this to you. I want you to understand the gravity of what this says. The female Russian national responded, I have already alerted my personal links to our conversation and your request. As mentioned, we are all very excited by the possibility of a good relationship with Mr. Trump. The Russian Federation would love to welcome him once his candidature will be officially announced. So they were waiting for that. Okay, he's going to be the president. We're waiting. Okay. That was in April. April of last year, April 2016. This is heavy, folks. On or about April 18th, 2016, the professor introduced defendant Papadopoulos over emails to an individual in Moscow, which is called the Russian MFA connection, who told defendant Papadopoulos he had connections with the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That's MFA. Okay, the MFA is the executive entity in Russia responsible for Russian foreign relations. Over the next several weeks, defendant Papadopoulos and the Russian MFA connection had multiple conversations over Skype and email about setting the groundwork for a potential meeting between the campaign and Russian government officials. All right. On or about April 22nd of 2016, the Russian MFA connection sent defendant Papadopoulos an email thanking him for an extensive talk and proposing to meet in London or Moscow. Defendant Papadopoulos replied by suggesting that we set up here in London with the ambassador as well to discuss a process moving forward. On or about April 25th, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos emailed a senior, it says actually it's Papadopoulos, that's a pronunciation, Papadopoulos, emailed a senior policy advisor for the campaign, senior policy advisor. The Russian government has an open invitation by Putin for Mr. Trump to meet him when he is ready. The advantage of being in London is that these governments tend to speak a bit more openly in, quote, neutral, unquote, cities. Papadopoulos learns that the Russians have dirt on Clinton. On or about April 26, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos met the professor for breakfast in a London hotel. During this meeting, the professor told defendant Papadopoulos that he had just returned from a trip to Moscow where he had met with high-level Russian government officials. The professor told defendant Papadopoulos that on the trip, he and the professor learned that the Russians had obtained dirt on then-candidate Clinton. The professor told defendant Papadopoulos, as defendant Papadopoulos later described the FBI, that the Russians, have dirt on her. The Russians had emails of Clinton. They have thousands of emails. Following that conversation, defendant Papadopoulos continued to correspond with campaign officials and continued to communicate with the professor and the Russian MFA connection in an effort to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government. Okay. For example, the day after his meeting at the hotel with the professor, on or about April 27, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos emailed the senior policy advisor, quote, have some interesting messages coming in from Moscow about a trip when the time is right. B, also on or about April 27, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos emailed a high-ranking official of the Trump campaign, quote, the high-ranking campaign official, to discuss Russia's interest in hosting Mr. Trump. Having received a lot of calls over the last month about Putin wanting to host him and the team when the time is right. I'm reading this from the document that you can read yourself. link to which is in this live stream, in the description. It's the second link, okay? And this is on page 7 of 14, all right? In B, that's where I'm reading it right now, okay? Now it goes on or about April 30th, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos thanked the professor for his critical help in arranging a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government and remarked it's history-making if it happens. Papadopoulos shares information from the Russian FMA connection. On or about May 4th, 2016, the Russian FMA connection sent an email to Defendant Papadopoulos and the president that stated, I have just talked to my colleagues from the FMA. They're open for cooperation. One of the options is to make a meeting for you at the North America desk if you are in Moscow. Defendant Papadopoulos responded that he was glad the FMA is interested. Defendant Papadopoulos forwarded the May FMA email to the high-ranking campaign official, adding, what do you think? Is this something we want to move forward with? The next day, on or about May 5th, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos had a phone call with the campaign supervisor and then forwarded the May 4th MFA email to him, adding to the top of the email, quote, Russia updates, unquote. On or about May 13th, 2016, the professor emailed Defendant Papadopoulos with an update of what they discussed in the recent conversations. Let me see something. I wonder if the president has tweeted anything new since this. Okay, hold on a second. I just want to check this because, let's see here. Let's see. And the reason is that Trump was pretty... Oh, he just says there's no collusion. But he wrote that there was no collusion before this latest indictment dropped. Since the introduction of this indictment against Papadopoulos, President Trump has tweeted nothing. Just noting, President Trump has tweeted nothing, okay, since this indictment dropped. Now, continuing. This looks bad. This looks bad. This looks bad. Boy, this looks bad. Okay. Bad. All right. And it goes on. Let's see here. Yeah. I read that one. Oh, okay. On or about May 21st, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos emailed another high-ranking campaign official with a subject line, request from Russia to meet Mr. Trump. That was May 21st of 2016. Okay. That was May 21st of 2016. The email included the May 4th MFA. Hey, I'll see you, Barry. See you, Memo. Yes, Barry, yeah. And it says, and it added, Russia has been eager to meet Mr. Trump for quite some time and have been reaching out to me to discuss. On or about June 1st, 2016, Defendant Papadopoulos emailed a high-ranking campaign official and asked about Russia. The high-ranking campaign official referred him to the campaign supervisor because he is running point. Defendant Papadopoulos then emailed the campaign supervisor with a subject line, read messages from Russia. I have the Russian MFA asking me if Trump is interested in visiting Russia at some point. Wanted to pass this info along for you to decide what's best to do with it and what message I should send or to ignore. From mid-June through, we'll let that go. Through mid-August 2016, Papadopoulos pursued, an off-the-record meeting between one or more campaign representatives. I'm going to let that go and repeat this, okay? Hold on a second. And, okay, now, I'm going to repeat this. From mid-June to mid-August 2016, Papadopoulos pursued an off-the-record meeting between one or more campaign representatives and members of President Putin's Putin's office and the MFA. For example, on or about June 19th of 2016, remember we started in March, April, May, June, right? After several emails, this was 2016, after several emails and Skype exchanges with a Russian MFA connection, Defendant Papadopoulos emailed a high-ranking Capitol official with a subject line, "New message from Russia." The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's MFA, messaged and said that if Mr. Trump is unable to make it to Russia, if a campaign rep or someone else, me or someone else, can make it for meetings, I am willing to make the trip off the record if it is in the interest of Mr. Trump and the campaign to meet specific people. After several weeks of further communication, a potential off-the-record meeting with Russian officials on or about August 15th, 2016, the campaign supervisor told Defendant Papadopoulos, "I would encourage you and another foreign policy advisor to the campaign to make the trip if it is feasible." The trip proposed by Defendant Papadopoulos did not take place. Now here's the defendant's false statements to the FBI. On or about January 27, 2017, Defendant Papadopoulos agreed to be interviewed by agents from the FBI. The agents informed Defendant Papadopoulos that if the FBI was investigating interference, by the Russian government in the 2016 presidential election, and whether any individuals related to the campaign were involved. And right now the answer is obviously yes. The agents further informed Defendant Papadopoulos that he needed to be truthful and warned that he could get into trouble, quote, get in trouble if he lied. The agents also advised him that lying to them, quote, is a federal offense, unquote. They confirmed that the interview was, quote, completely voluntary, unquote. All right? During the course of the interview, Defendant Papadopoulos made numerous false statements and omitted material facts regarding the conduct and communications described above, and in particular lied about the extent, timing, and nature of his communications with the professor, the female Russian national, that's Vera, and the Russian MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs connections. So, false statement. Papadopoulos met the professor and learned about Russian dirt before he joined the campaign. So he was trying to protect the campaign. During his interview, so basically it works like this. The campaign had received information about the Clinton emails from Russia, Russian nationals, Russian agents. And the professor found out about it when he joined the campaign, not the other way around, okay? And it reads here that Defendant Papadopoulos stated multiple times to the FBI that those communications occurred before he joined the campaign. Defendant Papadopoulos told the FBI, "This isn't like the professor, messaging me while I'm in April with Trump. I wasn't even on the Trump team. That wasn't even on the radar," which obviously is not the case. He lied, okay? He lied. He said it was a very strange coincidence to be told the dirt before it started to work for the campaign. In truth and in fact, however, as set forth above, Defendant Papadopoulos met the professor for the first time on or about March 14, 2016, after Defendant Papadopoulos had already learned he would be a foreign policy advisor for the campaign. The professor showed interest in Defendant Papadopoulos after learning of his role in the campaign, and the professor told Defendant Papadopoulos after the Russians possessing dirt on then-candidate President Clinton in April 2016, more than a month after Defendant Papadopoulos had joined the campaign. False statement. Papadopoulos' contacts with the professor were inconsequential. During his interview with the FBI, Defendant Papadopoulos also made false statements in an effort to minimize the extent and importance of his communications with the professor. For example, defendant Papadopoulos stated that the, quote, the professor is a nothing, that he thought the professor was just, quote, a guy talking up connections or something, which is something very similar to what Donald Trump Jr. was claiming, and that he believed the professor was BSing, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, right. And in truth and in fact, however, defendant Papadopoulos understood the professor to have substantial connections to high-level Russian government officials, and that the professor spoke with some of these officials in Moscow before telling defendant Papadopoulos about the dirt. Defendant Papadopoulos also engaged in extensive communications over a period of months with the professor regarding foreign policy issues with the campaign, including efforts to arrange a history-making meeting between the campaign and Russian government officials. In addition, defendant Papadopoulos failed to inform investigators that the professor had introduced him to the Russian FMA connection, despite being asked if he had met with Russian nationals or anyone with a Russian accent during the campaign. Indeed, anyone with a Russian accent. You got a Russian accent? Well, let me tell you. That's hilarious. Indeed, while defendant Papadopoulos told the FBI he was involved in meetings and did shuttle diplomacy with officials from several other countries during the campaign, he omitted the entire course of conduct with the professor and the Russian MFA connection regarding his efforts to establish meetings between the campaign, the Trump campaign, and Russian government officials. False statement. Papadopoulos met the female Russian national before he joined the campaign, and his contacts with her were inconsequential. Wow. During the interview with the FBI, basically Papadopoulos had falsely claimed that he met Vera, outside the whole campaign involvement, right? But in truth, according to the indictment, in fact, however, defendant Papadopoulos met the female Russian national on or about March 24th of 2016. After he had joined the campaign, he believed that the female Russian national had connections to high-level Russian government officials and could help him arrange a potential foreign policy trip to Russia. And during the campaign, he emailed and spoke over Skype. Skypes get a lot of play here. On numerous occasions with a female Russian national about the potential foreign policy trip to Russia. And 4, events following Papadopoulos, January 27th interview with the FBI. The FBI interviewed defendant Papadopoulos again on February 16th, 2017. His counsel was present for the interview. During the interview, defendant Papadopoulos reiterated his purported willingness to cooperate with the FBI's investigation. The next day, on or about February 17th, 2017, defendant Papadopoulos deactivated his Facebook account, which he had maintained since approximately August of 2005, and which that can't be right because Facebook wasn't created until August 2007, so that's wrong. That's wrong. Unless, of course, he was on the original Facebook, but no, that's not right either. That date's wrong. That date is wrong because Facebook doesn't go back to 2005. I'll double check that, but let me see here. Facebook found. Let me see here. Quick search. Facebook. Facebook date of launch. Facebook date of launch. Yeah, okay, I was wrong. February 4th of 2004. So this man joined 2005. I joined Facebook in 2007. I was late to the party. Well, compared to this guy. So at any rate, he's been on Facebook since August 2005. And he said it contained communications he had with a professor and the Russian MFA connection. Shortly after he deactivated his Facebook account, Papadopoulos created a new Facebook account that did not contain the communication with the professor and the Russian MFA connection. On or about February 23rd, 2017, defendant Papadopoulos ceased using his cell phone number and began using a new number. On July 27th, 2017, defendant Papadopoulos was arrested upon his arrival at Dulles International Airport. Following his arrest, defendant Papadopoulos met with the government on numerous occasions to provide information and answer questions. That is signed by Robert S. Mueller III, Special Counsel, by Ginny S. Rhee, Andrew D. Goldstein, Aaron Zelinsky, all at the Special Counsel's office. Heavy, folks. Like I said, I just read to you that entire indictment there. Wow, that's quite heavy. Quite heavy. Going back to, sorry if I missed your comments there, but I had to read all of that. That was something else. Good morning, John Marks. How are you? And so what do you think about that, folks? Those of you who are around listening to this. Right. Yeah, thank you for the t-shirt compliment. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? You have both indictments now before you. If you want to read them at your leisure, they are right here at Zenny62. I will have, by the way, the new shares distributed later today. ML Scott and others who have been invested of late. I'll do that. I'm going to, it is now 11:40. If you don't have any other questions or comments, I'm going to sign off right now. I'm going to come back at 1 o'clock for the press, which promises to be a very interesting press conference. Let me see if there's any news on Twitter that I may have missed. Hold on a second. Going home here, seeing what the catch. Oh, Manafort is #1. Kevin Spacey is #2. Let's see here, and that pretty much is it regarding. It's national. It's hashtag National Candy Corn Day, by the way. And Mike Levin says, bottom line, Trump knew or should have known about Paul Manafort's shady ties to Russia and others when he hired him to run his campaign. And it's funny, I don't see George's name here. I see Manafort, but that's about it. That's it. And Shauna Sips T says, Newt Gingrich says, by the way, this is something from Sean Hannity, a quote from Newt Gingrich. No one should underestimate how much Paul Manafort did to really help Trump campaign get to where it is now. That's Newt Gingrich saying that, according to Sean Hannity, and that was August 19th, 2016 at 7:08 p.m. Wow. I gotta retweet that. That's something I've got to retweet. As Shauna sips her tea. Hilarious. It's from Golden Gate. This comes from Golden Gate Blonde on Twitter. Wow. All right, folks. I will be back later. Like I say, for the press conference. That press conference that promises to be a doozy of a press conference. All right. I'll see you all later. See ya.